Hello, everybody. Today, I just want to tell you a story. We all like a good story, don't we? I mean, when we were children, I'm sure most of us, or if not all of us, in, have heard different stories from our parents, our babysitters, whoever was taking care of you. And we were fascinated by the stories we were told. And it was all the stories we hear, provided it's an interesting, enchanting story for children. It would have transported you to another realm, another world, and one of the strongest human faculty is the creative imagination, and so we can all enjoy a good story. All that aside, today I'm going to I want to share a story that I have heard from the time I was a little child that fascinated me more than any other mythological stories coming from the other cultures. Like we have heard, uh, we know the Greek mythology, Hercules, and so on. And then you probably have heard of other mythological stories from Egyptian, Chinese, Japanese, or wherever uh, it may be coming from. But this is said to be the biggest mythology ever written in human history in poetic form. It was not prose, it was originally written in the ancient language. Now it's a dead language. It's called the Sanskrit language, just like Latin. It's nobody speaks Sanskrit. It was originally written by Sanskrit language by a hermit by the name Vyasa. Vyasa, Vyasa, and it's the story happens in the subcontinent of India. As you know, India is a subcontinent. I mean, India is a term the British gave long before the British invaded India. It was just a subcontinent, and today, as I understand, there are 28 states, and each state speaks its own distinct language, and causing, I mean, the differences opening up the room for conflict. So unlike United States, which has 50 states, and all 50 states speaks one and the same language known as English, which is the strength of United States. Imagine each state speaks a distinct language. So, so that's India for you. And I mean, I'm not discounting the India has, I think, 1.3 billion, the second largest population after China, and India has probably a very large Muslim population that I think, if I'm not, please don't try to come back at me with the inaccuracies. I'm just saying it, but my intention is to get to the gist of the story and not for any historical debate. So that's my disclaimer. If anything, correct me, but my main focus is mythology. So anyway, India has also 250 million Muslims who I think largely came into existence after the uh, Islamic invasions in the 14th, 15th centuries. Anyways, all that aside, this mythology is said to have written some 10,000 years ago, BC, before Christ. Story starts off uh, with an incident. There is this fisher community in the river bank of Ganges. Ganges is said to be the biggest river in India. So the river bank and the fishing community, a tribal community, surrounded by forests. And like in every community, there is a leader of the community who rules, who oversees the welfare of the folks. So everybody respects him, and when he's after his demise, someone from his lineage will become the community leader or the tribal leader. So story goes on. Now, coming back to this story, there is this fishing community, tribal community, with a leader who has a daughter, young, dusky, beautiful damsel by the name Satyavati. Satyavati, I mean, their main occupation, this community, they're fishing, fisher folk. Fishing is their main. The men go fishing and sell their fish, and some of them, because they live in the river banks of Ganges, they have the boat service, the ferry service, and it's part of their livelihood. So this young woman, the village, or the community, or the leader's daughter, Satyavati, she does this boat service to, of course, it's to make a living. It's the occupation of in the community. So one fine day, this yogi, hermit, I mean, yogis, hermits in the olden days, they just leave everything behind. They give up their worldly pleasures. They go into the forest and they live in the forest and doing their penance for spiritual enlightenment. And so that's what it is. So this hermit by the name Parasara, I'm sorry I cannot change these outlandish names. I cannot give names like Joseph and Victor and Simon and Peter and so on. So the Western audience, it's easier and familiar with them, these names, but these are outlandish names coming from the Indian subcontinent. So bear with me. So we have Satyavati. Sometimes in English it's written Satyavati with a T. So Satyavati. And Parasara, the hermit, the yogi, shows up at the river Ganges and he wants to cross the river. So Satyavati, the young, beautiful, dusky beauty who's with the boat, obliges. So the hermit or the yogi gets in a boat and they're sailing. The man who has given up worldly pleasures sets eyes on this dusky beauty and gives into his sensual drive or sensual desire. It so happens they end up, without using crude language, I would say they find a secluded part and they come together, meaning they had connubial pleasure as man and woman. It's much 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 against the lifestyle this yogi has undertaken, and immediately after he realizes what he did was inappropriate. So it's he has committed a transgression. So what does he do? By way of repentance for his inappropriate deed. With his spiritual powers, he grants a boon to this young, beautiful woman. She is from the fisher community, and their livelihood is selling fish. So they are constantly with the fish, and she smells like a dead fish, a body odor. So what this yogi chooses to do, he gives his blessing that she'll no longer have that body odor of a dead fish. Instead, he doesn't stop there. Instead, a body would have the fragrance of flowers from even from far away. I don't know. It's a blessing or curse. It would it would invite the attention of men. Now that all apart, he walks away, and from this union, a child is born in due course of time, and the child is named Vyasa, who later writes this entire story of Mahabharata in different parts of India. I mean, India has 28 states, as I mentioned, so it's pronounced differently. In the southern part of India, it's Mahabharatam with an M. In the northern part, it's Mahabharat or Mahabharata. For our sake, let's call it Mahabharat in English, Mahabharata. And it is an epic story. This is just the beginning. It has hundreds of subplots and the main plot, and it's unbelievably, it just transcends generations in during those times. So this is where the story begins. We'll stop here, and we'll see what happened to this young beauty who gave birth to Vyasa, and in the fisher community, what follows in the next episodes. I promise to upload, and in my own words, I'll try to narrate the story with a disclaimer. If there are inaccuracies, please, my main intention is to convey the main story. So leave it at that. Thank you for your patience.